welcome back. Now let's talk about accountability issues. The 2019 governorship election fed us some surprises, with some incumbent governors displaced and other political bigwigs losing their seats in the National Assembly. As expected, both newly elected leaders and those serving a second term have been actually reeling out their agenda for citizens. And one thing is certain: it appears the electorates are getting more enlightened, and any leader who fails to deliver may as well prepare to face the consequences. But the question is, how else can the electorate ensure politicians are truly held accountable to their electoral promises? Joining me to discuss that and more is Jalingo Agba, who is a journalist, and Nelson Ekujimi, who is a political and public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Jalingo, let me start with you. Just how, these politicians have now been elected, they've made several electoral promises. We've seen this before. Very soon they will be sworn in. It will be time to lead. For these electorates who have elected them now, going forward, how can they hold these politicians now to account?
Okay, it's not difficult. During the campaigns, quite unfortunate that the politicians no longer tell us anything during the campaigns. They just dance, abuse themselves, and possibly say things that really don't make sense.
People go out to vote for them, and for people who go out to vote for them, they have certain things that they would definitely want from this politician.
Yeah, we saw them make promises too. So most of the candidates that came out, they made a few promises. Even if they didn't say it on the campaign podiums, they wrote it in the documents that they were sharing around. And it's time for people to follow up and begin to insist that politicians must keep to those their promises. I am also a voter. And there are a couple of things as a citizen that I'm beginning to do to hold my own people accountable. And for my state governor, I've also sound in my writings and everywhere, I've told whoever cares to listen that I know that whether covertly or overtly, 70% of the appointees in the first 4 years of Governor Yade, I make bold to say on television that there are people with questionable characters who are related to gangs, cultists, particularly in Obudu, where we come from. And I have made it very clear to the governor that in the next 4 years, if he doesn't fight these people, we will form a vanguard to fight them by ourselves. A lot of expectations. But I think in Nigeria, most voters see people in government as teen gods. We don't know how to ask questions.
And that's a big problem.
Yeah, but like where I come from, if you go to my place, they believe that anybody who manages to win an election has been elected by God. Power is given by God. And anytime you want to ask questions, they see you as somebody who is anti-God. So we are not expected to question leaders. But for those who are associated with me, I have continued to tell them that the only reason why leaders will not perform is if we don't ask them questions. And that is what we must begin to do now. The social media, before now, we didn't have anywhere to ventilate our frustrations. But the social media, we must track projects. Every government project in your community, if it is not moving beyond where you saw it the last month, you can snap it and put it on Facebook and tag a few persons that you know, and people will follow up from there. But it is actually time to begin to ask politicians questions.
Because for a long time, the electorate, we've actually not been asking politicians questions. For instance, let's face it, let's just tell ourselves the truth. For some of these electorate, the last time they would see these politicians would be during the elections, where they came to their area for the campaigns. After the campaigns, now that the elections are over, they will never see these politicians again. They would never see their representatives. The representatives do not hold what you call, your constituency meeting and all of that. How can the electorate? Because the electorate must understand that they actually have the power to change things. So how can they change things to make sure that, these people they've elected begin to become more accountable to them?
Yes, I think the ball is in the court of the electorate. But unfortunately, just like Jalingo rightly mentioned, you can't remember any of the legislators making any campaign promises. They just ruled on the crest of the gubernatorial candidate.
Whether or not they made campaign promises,
No, we must be very clear, because,
if a man has not
promised you anything, what do you be expecting from him? But be that as it may, so long as they have become elected representatives of the people, it is now left for us as the electorate to set agenda. Maybe through our community development associations, our CDCs, our CDA, Community Development Committee. So it is now left for us to, as citizens, as an electorate, for us to galvanize our interests. That look, in XY area, what are your expectations even we at the level of the civil society, we have that responsibility. Before Jalingo, before he came up with those dispositions, I also have been thinking along that line, that how can we aggregate?
Because it shouldn't just be election comes after every 4 years,
Well,
just
yes,
an event that happens, and
yes,
after that
no,
event...
it shouldn't be. So it is now left for us, even at the level of civil society, to aggregate the demands and the yearnings and aspirations of people in the various localities, and now send it, as a position paper or as a communique at maybe every quarter or half yearly to the elected representatives. Because one thing I know for sure is that if we don't demand of these elected representatives, they will not give us what we truly deserve. Because societies that have made progress from time immemorial are societies in which they have asked questions. Right now, we need to organize ourselves at our various levels and aggregate whatever be our demands or whatever be the challenges we are facing in our environment, such that a representative of the people, whether as a member of the House of Assembly or as a House of Reps or as a senator or as a governor, attends to those problems. Now, that is why they are there.
One of the problems with, guaranteeing or bringing about accountability is that most times the electorates are actually not informed. Yeah. I mean, let's look at it from the perspective of constituency projects, for instance, whether at the national level, there's the National Assembly, even the State Assembly. Now, these constituency projects are usually, given out, contracted out, given out to the various lawmakers of various constituencies. But the fact is that in most cases, the electorates don't even know what constituency project is coming to their area. They're basically not aware. So where you don't have an informed electorate, how then can you bring about accountability?
It's a very important question, Deji, and that's not just the responsibility of government. I think that for those who are watching at home, whether you're a leader in the church, whether in your house or in your family, there's a need to pep up the confidence of young people in particular to begin to ask questions. Talking about constituency projects, I will give you a very practical example. And this will work better because people can actually grasp better. I went home and saw a primary school in my village where I finished from that was very bad. I'm from Bedia Sacred Heart Primary School. I actually went for my mother's burial. When we came back, I took photographs, did videos of my primary school and the only clinic in my village. I got to Calabar and I went to meet the chairman of SUBEB in Cross River, the State Universal Basic Education, and appealed to him to go help us fix our primary school in my village. I did the same thing with the DG of the Primary Healthcare Agency. And lo and behold, they responded promptly. God bless them. And the chairman of SUBEB...
And that is because you did it.
Yes, because I did. But while I was doing that, I was carrying the community along. Thank God for social media. I put the pictures online. I tagged our clan head, who is also an appointee in government, as it were, and a couple of other people that this is how it's going on. Now, to cut the story short, at a point, SUBEB even wanted me to do the contracts of fixing 2 buildings in the school. I said, no, I can't do a contract in my village. They awarded the contract to a company owned by a member of the State House of Assembly who was representing my constituency.
And who should have actually, brought that up in the first place.
Who, he doesn't even live in the village. How he managed to win election, I don't know. He's from the village, but he has never lived there. But he won elections. And now, when they gave him the contract, one person was asked to renovate one of the buildings. He was asked to build a new classroom of 6 blocks. The person that was supposed to renovate, who is not even from Obudu, from Biase, finished the renovation and left. Then this man, who is late now, may so rest in peace, he's not alive to defend himself, who is supposed to build the house, he died last year, built it up to lintel level and abandoned it. I took him on. It got to a point where I was forced to start abusing him openly, mobilize the village against him, and he had no choice. He had to go finish that building. Now, the point I'm making is this. If they did the same thing with the clinic, Dr. Betta came and also fixed our clinic.
Because you actually pushed and made the demand.
And the youths from the village, we had to push and keep monitoring that project. Everything they do there, I insisted that let's follow up. If work is supposed to start on Saturday, if they are not there on Saturday, we ask questions, why did they not come on Saturday? Sometimes the people in government can actually, from the supply side, can actually get angry and feel that you are pushing them too hard. But we have to keep pushing we must not keep quiet. And if every one of us can rise up in our various communities, identify these projects, reach out to government, because sometimes government will not really know. In that same village that I come from, the village had produced 2 local government chairmen for Obudu, something that is very, very unusual. And the 2 local government chairmen, as a matter of fact, are first cousins. They have the same granddad. And the school in our village was abandoned, the hospital was abandoned, and 2 local government chairmen. The member representing the same local government was also from the same Bedia. 3 of them from one village. Nothing was happening there until somebody who is not in government had to come and draw government attention to such projects.
And that's the problem. I mean, if how to get communities, you know, to replicate what he's just described now, to replicate that kind of effort in communities across the country is always a challenge. Because if we can do it, then we'll begin to see results in our communities.
Yes, you know, we can only be able to do that if we have committed, educated, and, you know, focused, enlightened minds. Because ordinarily...
Because sometimes, I mean, the majority of the people may seem powerless, but then you need a voice. And
even if you need a voice, you need information. Because a lot of these so-called powerless people don't have the information that he was able to, you know, to make use of. He used his own clout as somebody who is in the media, you know, to get, you know, government's attention towards addressing those challenges. Like, for example, we can as a people take it up that we want to know the level of refurbishment, or the level of the state of primary healthcare centers. You go around a lot of our local government. I remember vividly well that at a point in time, maybe during the former President Obasanjo's regime, there was this project about, you know, citing primary healthcare centers. That's under Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti. But today, I'm not sure if you go to most of the local governments, those PHCs still exist.
But this government has also given every state $1.5 million.
So we need, you know,
PHCs.
because the issue about health.
This federal government,
yes,
they have given all the 36
yes, but it's also
governments.
very important that you know, people actually follow up on those.
Yeah, that's why I just gave this information out that the federal government gave all the incumbent minister of health. Every state, all the 36 states got $1.5 million to equip primary health centers, all of them. And then 6 other states, each from the 6 geopolitical zones, won an additional $3.5 million. They did a competition. And in each geopolitical zones, in South, for instance, where we come from, Cross River State got $5 million because they won the additional 3.5.
So it's also important
that
that people
we need to know all this information. And if in your state, nothing is happening to the primary health centers, that means somebody is eating the $1.5 million.
Yes.
Because
No,
all
you should be
the
asking
states,
questions.
all the states, whether PDP or APC or
yes,
UPP,
exactly.
all of them were given $1.5 million to finance and equip
the
primary
PHCs.
health. And that money came from UNICEF. It wasn't Nigeria's government money. It's not taxpayers' money.
And I think people must do well to also follow the news, because most times people don't follow the news.
Definitely.
Just not
People
informed.
don't follow the news.
They're not informed.
And you know, the politicians like it when we
like
don't
it.
follow the news.
Of course, it's to
They
their
like
benefit
the ignorance.
now.
They like I was wondering in my village why the money that we use to fix our clinic, Deji, is less than the money that these politicians buy palm wine and beer when they come home. It's true, because we use direct labor. When they wanted to go, I said, no contract. Who is the welder? We need to put beds in the place. In the nearest welder in the village, we get one person. Okay, there's no welding point in the village. Let's go and hire a machine. Who is the carpenter? We did everything. Where is the paint? We go and buy from the market. We did everything, and the money that we spent in returning that clinic to an 8-bed refurbished clinic is less than the money these people spend to buy palm wine, bushmeat, and gogoro in the village when they come to the village. They have no interest in development.
And,
we need to begin to act.
And really, with what we have seen, especially with constituency projects, because we've actually done a lot with constituency projects. Most times, some of these projects are actually allocated to communities that are remote, very, very remote, where the people basically don't even know those projects have been allocated to them. Yeah. And then the lawmaker, you know, basically does nothing. The projects are never executed. Nobody asks questions. They know that most times it's very difficult for journalists also to access these communities. Nothing happens.
I think the media has a huge responsibility in this regard. Because when those projects are announced or are initiated in the various houses of assembly or in government, ministries, departments, and agencies, what they usually do is to intimate the media so as to intimidate the
But I also expect the local people to, you know, if the local people to follow the news.
Yes,
you know,
the local people will follow the news, but if the media beams its searchlight, because we cannot downplay or de-emphasize the role of the media in nation building. Where we are today, the role of the media cannot be measured. So the media has that huge responsibility on its shoulder to assist this society to get out of the woods. And that is by focusing its searchlight, you know, emphasizing on this information so that a lot of us out there in the public space can leverage on that information to, you know, to galvanize the electorate, and, you know, in that way we'll be able to make our country better than, you know, we have made.
The media also cannot take the place of the citizens.
Agreed.
You know, it's a tripod.
Yes, I agree.
Government is a behemoth.
I know.
The media is standing there,
Yes.
and the citizens also
Yes.
have a huge role
to
play.
Yes.
No,
they must leverage on the role the media is playing. That I've emphasized.
Very good, very good.
But if the government tries to play funny and the media is lackadaisical, or the media is lukewarm, there will be little information that the citizens can leverage upon. But once the media gives the information, the citizens, even if they are not hearing from the government, they will cash on or lash on to that information from the media, you know, to create public awareness.
We can further stretch it by asking every citizen out there to also become a journalist.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
So anywhere you see a government project going on and you see that signboard, because usually they put a signboard, the name of the project, the duration when it's supposed to finish. You can snap it and keep it, or send it to any iReport portal that you know. You can send it
even
to
the social media.
Deji 360 iReport. You can send it to Channels iReport and say, okay, this project is supposed to have finished in 2 years. So, but 4 years after, it's still standing here. If Mr. A has not done it,
and the reason why it's important to do this is because, look, if citizens do not demand accountability, there's no way
Nothing will happen.
There's no way good leadership can come up. And that's why charlatans will continue to use money to bribe their way, buy votes, and get into office. But if people begin to understand, if politicians begin to understand that, look, you would never sit easy if you were occupying a position.
A lot of them would think twice before
you would think twice before aspiring. So,
Very true.
and I just think it's absolutely important that people do that. Imagine how many people died in the last election.
Yeah.
Imagine the price that we have paid to bring about what we call this democracy. So if you are not asking questions and you're not demanding accountability, then you're definitely not helping yourself, your community, and you're not helping the society at all. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back to talk about something else.